Hey guys, should we talk about Terence Crawford walking out to Ilia Topuria's song? Now, I love this. I'm not sure this was provocative. I find myself believing Terence Crawford, and we love him, right? Terence used to wrestle. And Terence, according to the fellow boxers, is the only boxer that could go over to MMA and they would expect him to win. Like the fellow boxers will say, yeah, you MMA guys, you could beat us all up. You know more about fighting. Except for Terence. Like Terence is the feared and the respected boxer as far as being like a legit badass amongst fellow boxers. But there's something about this that makes us feel like we know him. Like he is one of ours, even though he represents boxing, right? And so there's something just cool about Crawford. There's something that feels regular guy about Crawford. Canelo feels like a star. He might be a very cool guy, but he feels like a star. He feels like he's not. He feels like if we invited him over, we would not expect him to come. He's too big. He's too Mr. Fancy. Crawford would probably roll in and bring a pizza with him, right? It's how he feels. So Crawford gets called out by Ilia. Now, we see this all the time. This an MMA guy going after a boxer will just never end. And frankly, Conor getting the actual fight with Mayweather made it so it can't ever end. They lied about that fight. They lied about their purses. They lied about their numbers. Nobody ever called them online. So now it creates like something very aspirational. Well, maybe I could do it too. Maybe I could make $100 million and maybe I could get 50 million in sponsorships and maybe, whatever's the plethora of ridiculous lies that they told. They still got away with it. And so it still makes fighters dream. And so it's very hard to stop the narrative of MMA versus boxing. Now, before we dig into it, and before I think Ilia could knock him out right by the idiot in the room. And then the reasonable guy in the room that goes, there's nothing to see here. Terence would touch him up. And if Ilia really wanted to box, he would have been a boxer. Like before that reasonable voice comes in, I see it a little bit different. And I don't mind the call outs. I really don't. I don't mind the guys going for it. I really don't. I will ask myself, though, does this guy have the skills? Not boxing skills. The sport of boxing is something that people cling to that are idiots. The sport of boxing stopped when the concept of pay-per-view was created. So we're now in the business of boxing. And that is why you understand the biggest fight, according to numbers, ever witnessed was Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. That is why you understand that Jake Paul is going to fight Tank Davis. That's why you understand Mayweather is going to do whatever that is with Mike. But we're in the business of boxing. And it's important that you accept and that you appreciate that. Because I will look at guys that go for call-outs or waste time on matches that they can't get. I'm not positive that's what's happening here. I'm not ready to tell you that Ilia could get this fight. I do not imagine that at all Dana would entertain this idea, but Dana White did not entertain Conor versus Floyd until he did. That was very unique, and it wasn't the UFC champion against a guy that was going for 50-0. I realize that's how it was presented to you. It was the greatest mouthpiece in MMA with the greatest mouthpiece in boxing. That is what got that fight to happen. And Ilia's not there, but he's on the cusp. Ilia is not Conor McGregor, but he's on the cusp. I could see him becoming that kind of a star. So I share this with you because where is this fight going to go? I think that Bud Crawford is in one interesting situation, and this was called to your attention by a very famous trainer, and the trainer said, I think that Crawford should retire. I don't think he's got any other opponents, and I think that he needs to retire. So if we're talking about retirement by some boxing experts, and we're talking about Bud and Ilia, by Bud and Ilia, like them getting together is not actually the dumbest idea that I've ever heard. And for that reason, it's still on the table. And if he took his walkout music out of coincidence or out of spite, either way, I'm into it. See you guys. I gotta go. Goodbye.